Can you really shut your thoughts off? Or do they just keep going? I don't really think you can ever shut your thoughts off. You can control your thoughts as to what you're thinking, but when you meditate, it's the closest you can get to being consciously aware of shutting down, all those voices in your head. Man, think about this though. If you work for a living, like a regular 9 to 5 job, for whatever, and 33% of your day is spent working, and if you don't have any formal education about anything, and you just have to work this job in order to just pay bills, in order to just eat, in order to just survive, you have to get up at least 33% of your day. If you work 8 hours and you drive an hour, then it's more than 33%. But I'm saying on average. You get up when you don't want to get up, and then you go and move your body around for these 8-something hours. For the elite, you do this for them so they can rest and get fat. And what else can you do besides not work, and then, or maybe live with somebody else, or maybe shack up with a bunch of people, and you don't have to work as much, or you get like a part-time job, live somewhere that's cheap. But if you want to live comfortably, then you have to work harder, and then you have to work longer hours, and you just have to continue to go and do work for the elite. Now, mind you, they all get to rest day in and day out. They get to do whatever it is that they want to do, which is getting, to the point now, it's getting so damn old that I'm praying for the economy to collapse. I'm praying that this dollar bill means nothing, because once that begins to happen, I'll just stick with my faith that this is the purpose. This system's going down, and the new system is going to be in charge, and it's not going to be like a cakewalk either. People are going to have to start doing without. You might want to start fasting now. Just some advice for anybody and everybody. Fast. Do it for 3 days. It could be a water fast if you want. If you have diabetes, do a juice fast. Because that does help you collect your thoughts and put them in line, and they're not racing so much. Because the food that you put into your system, it just, it does clog. It's just like putting drugs, any kind. It clogs your brain. It prevents you from thinking clearly. So can you imagine having to do this for the rest of your life? Like, you have to get up if you want anything in life, if you want anything to do anything, to have any enjoyment, well, you need the paper that they print from God's green earth. You know, they take the paper, they make the paper through trees. The paper's nothing special. It's just, it has a bunch of fancy images on that piece of paper. They give you this allowance, and they allow you to, you know, do what you can with the amount of debt that's in your hand. And then they also try to get you imprisoned with the credit cards. Now, I fell into it. I fell into the credit card system. I accepted the mark of the beast. Yep. And I went and bought things, and then what happened was I got tired of paying it, and then I gave them a sign. I gave them a sign. Alright, so I've been at it for 20 years now. Basically 20 years straight, except for the jail time, a year and a half of working. You know, pretty much day in and day out, for the most part. It's just this job here is more of a punching the clock. Is it time to go home yet? One of those ordeals. That's what this is. Most of the other jobs I've had have always been subcontracted and trim work, and I go in, trim the houses, knock it out as fast as possible, get as much money as I can in that day to free up my time for the next day. A lot of times I would do that. I would put in, instead of working 2 days or maybe a day and another long half a day the next, I'll stay, wrap it all up that day, and then take the next day off. And I basically have 2 days pay in one day, and I'm taking the next day off. This job's not like that. There is no extra. There's no extra. You know, it's just, it is what it is. It's there. Now, some people don't have jobs, and you're like, man, this guy's complaining about having a freaking job. I can't even find one. Well, don't you know that we weren't meant to do this in the first place? So I'm 43. You mean to tell me I got 22 more years until I can retire? Oh, thanks, Elite. That means I get to work 22 more years, day in and day out, wasting 33% of my life for you so you can eat steak dinners and get fat and go and do whatever the fuck you want. This shit is getting old as dirt. There's a guy that works for my boss. He's been with him since the beginning. He's like 63 now? Or 5? I don't know. He might be almost 65, I think. He's finally getting ready to retire. He's been working with my boss now for, man, since, I don't know, for 30 years, probably. And he has his pension, his retirement and everything. And, but, you know, I guess, maybe Jonathan Kleck should lay hands on him because he has Parkinson. And, you know how you sit there, you're like this. And he's the nicest guy, of course. And, he's still in good shape, you know. Man, you know, to be like that and then you finally get to retire, it's like, oh, thanks, Elite. Thanks, Elite. I finally get to relax even though I can't. Like, man, the more each day goes by and this economy doesn't collapse and complete annihilation and destruction doesn't happen, maybe I'm just being extremely selfish. Because I want you people to learn a lesson. The ones that can't learn right now, I want you to learn a lesson. And it's the fear. It's the fear of God. That's what I want you to learn. The fear of God. The fear of Him. Which is respect to each individual human being on earth. Respect. And then to respect each human being on earth, you're respecting God, because we're all His creation. I don't know, it's just the people's perception of who God is and what. It's like, well, God's not evil. God is good. God's good all the time. The Lord is good. Well, yeah, the Lord's good. God is good. That's for sure. Didn't He create Satan? Isn't Satan not good? Isn't Satan purely evil? Isn't everything about Satan like disgusting? Well, if you choose to follow his teachings, yeah. But didn't God create evil? Like, didn't He create evil to kind of put people in line when they're kind of getting out of line? Like, isn't that what evil is there for? Isn't God both? Like, didn't he create every single thing that's on planet Earth? Wasn't everything created from the ground up? Like, everything you see, the concrete, the iron fences and plastic signs, just everything. Wasn't everything from the ground up? Which brings me back to the money, to the trees. I know Satan did it. I get it. Because you can say, well, whose idea was it? Well, it was Satan's idea, and he used his people because that's how he does it. He can use his people fluently. And if they don't know they're being used by him, they are the best pawns for Satan, because they have no clue. So they make these machines that came from the ground, because every piece of material came from the ground. That you got to remember, if people forget, the earth was made first, and it was all green grass. There was not a slab of concrete anywhere. There wasn't a road cut out through the woods, in the wilderness. Nothing. So they eventually took these trees that God created, chopped them down, somehow sliced thin the trees and made paper. I don't know how they did it, but they did. So they used that paper, which is God's, by the way, and then they create problems, and then they have solutions, and then they create the hunger, and then they say, hey, look, if you do this, we'll give you that, and then it's just a cycle that never ends, except for pretty soon it'll finally end. But look, I did ask for it, okay? I will get what I want, and the economy will collapse. And people that were just oblivious to it, or especially those that love money, you guys that love money, that's the time where I wish that I could see the look on your face. Because I know Steve will be able to see the look on everybody's faces, because he's going to be surveilling you. He's the one that's going to get satisfaction more than anybody with the people that actually love money. Now, part of it is evil. Like, half of it is. What Steve is doing is evil. And the other half is good. So that kind of goes into play. Like, what God is all about is He's taking both. He's taking what's necessary. It's like filtering out the junk. So He's going to get to see the look on people's faces when these events happen, and he's gonna be hearing people praying to God, like literally praying out loud, like not like LOLing, but POLing. A lot of people are going to be POLing Because what are you going to do when they say the stock market has completely collapsed, and or New York City, I don't know, some kind of EMP that happens over there that starts it. It'll be a ripple effect all throughout the United States, most likely right here first. It'll happen here first, and then people they're not going to know what to do. They're just gonna, well, a lot of them are going to be clung to with flatteries. They're going to try to, I mean, I don't know, most of the people are going to flee. Once this thing happens, and it's the beginning of the collapse, I don't think the destruction is going to happen right away. I think it's going to give us a good amount of time, quite a few weeks of seeing that the economy's collapsing, everything's shutting down, all the businesses are shutting down, and we're all screwed, So that's when people are going to flee, and they're going to go to the camps because they're going to think, well, oh my God, I'm hungry. We're going to starve to death, honey. If we don't eat in 3 days, I think we're going to die. Because that's how people think. It's like when you tell them to fast, I can't fast. I can't. I have some conditions. All right, well, I'm just going to say this firsthand because my boss is a diabetic. And he's in great shape. I mean, for his age, he's like 65-ish, I think. He does a juice fast, and so he has a stricter diet than I do, but throughout the day he'll eat from 11 to 7, and that's it. And I said this before, it's a good thing because you wake up, a lot of times I wake up, I'll eat my breakfast in the morning. I'm gonna do a fast for 3 more days that started yesterday. It won't be a water fast only, but it still works because that sugar that I seen that was in my body was necessary. So I'm not going to go through that again, but I will go through just the cleansing of the system once again. But to not eat for those 4 hours of when normally you would, you just feel lighter. And then when you don't eat late at night and you're not just laying down going to sleep, you feel lighter. And it's not about losing weight, but when you do fast, you can lose weight after you're done fasting because you're programming your mind to get used to the new patterns that you're developing because you're breaking the old habits. You got to break the old habits in order to make new patterns. And then you're able to control your impulses. This is what fasting is all about. Controlling your impulses. So what is your impulse? Snacking is an impulse, ain't it? When you cut down on the snacks, you lose the weight that's hanging over you, and you feel lighter and you feel healthier. It's just everything about fasting is so beneficial, but people are afraid to fast because they think they're going to die of not eating food. Now, I mean, that's the case with water, if you don't drink fluid, I don't know what it really is. I don't plan on doing it, so, but I've heard if you don't drink water for 3.5 days that you can just basically die. I think it's more like a week because your body starts shutting down. So my sister does that. She's around people that die all the time. She takes care of those type of people, and she can see when she kind of knows when they're dying. I think she told me that one time that the one lady she decided to just stop. She wanted to go, so she stopped eating anything and she stopped drinking anything. And then it was like, it's like after 3 or 4 days, your organs start to shut down, and it's like too late, even if you try to start drinking. And then it took like a week and she died. But these people are going to be so afraid and scared because they're not going to. It's like you can have a freaking case of oodles and noodles, and if you're used to fasting, well, then it's not going to be a problem. When you don't have food or you have a very limited amount, this is why I say get ready to fast now, because it's coming. People can laugh all they want and say, yeah, right, but look, you're just going to stand in shame when it happens. That's all. That's the only punishment that you have. I can't do anything. I can't force anybody to do anything or say anything or to stop anything. I just try to help you, guide you to the water. And if you don't want to drink it, then thirst to death, stupid. But when you start to see these things, and they're overwhelming, just know that you probably should have started to fast so you can get used to it. Because just like anybody that has an addiction, any kind of drug, anything that you're relying on that will give you a physical withdrawal. Now, cigarettes don't give you a physical withdrawal. That's a mental thing. You'll have to deal with that when that comes with the mental thing. The physical withdrawal is what will crush you. Because all of the government assistant programs, they're all going to collapse. Everybody that gets medications and relies on whatever, it's all going down. That's when you'll be so disgusted and sickened, like literally and physically, because you're going to stand in shame. You're going to remember these things I said, and not only is it going to be, complete chaos, but you're not going to be right with God, because you're going to be physically withdrawing. That's why that Xanax habit was kicked. I will never have to rely on that drug again, where you take it every day, and if you don't, you just start getting anxious more and more and more. And that withdrawal, even if you stopped completely and weaned down from it, it still takes about 2 good weeks just to even feel somewhat normal again, to get sleep. And then it takes 2 more weeks after that just to get back to regular. So you're a month in. So when this all happens, and it's a month's time, you're going to be in bad shape.